Star Wars fans, this is massive freaking news. Dave Filoni has been promoted again, and he is essentially now in charge of all of Star Wars. This comes out from Vanity Fair, one of the Hollywood trades, and Dave himself is quoted talking about his new promotion. And so I want to break this down. I want to clear up some of the confusion that I see online already. Plus, we've got to speculate about what this could mean for Star Wars overall. What can Star Wars fans actually expect now that this change has happened? Okay, so as I said, this comes from a big Vanity Fair article, and this is a huge article. There's a lot of cool stuff in here talking about bringing Anakin Skywalker back, talking about Rey Stevenson. It's a dense article talking about the Ahsoka show, but really what the Ahsoka show represents, which is somebody like Dave Filoni for the very first time taking full control, being at the helm of something live action. By the way, just want to say here, I like Ahsoka. I think a lot of you guys know that. I really like Ahsoka, but it has a lot of flaws. So it's still not a perfect piece of Star Wars fiction. But for me, and I think for many Star Wars fans, it does some of the most important Star Wars stuff right at a time when a lot of the other Star Wars stuff that we've been getting just simply isn't doing that. And what I mean by that is it's respecting the mysticism of Star Wars, respecting the lore of the Force. So while the show itself is an 8 out of 10 and really didn't end well, there was so much done right in the show that I'm ecstatic, man. I'm so hyped up that Dave's getting more. Not only are we going to get his movie, likely a season 2 of Ahsoka, but Dave's now in charge of all of Star Wars. So what he says in the article is that he is now Chief Creative Officer. And what this means is, you know, before this promotion, he was involved in a lot of these different productions over within Star Wars, but he would come into the development later. Like, they've already been developed, they're having stuff made, they're, you know, writing scripts or whatever. And then, yes, Dave would come in and oversee the process at some point. But now, with this role of Chief Creative Officer, he's going to be there from conception. His voice and his perspective on Star Wars will be involved in greenlighting projects. He is going to give notes to every single Star Wars project from here. And by the way, this is a promotion that Kevin Feige got after Avengers Endgame. Kevin Feige was the president of Marvel Studios, and he still is the president of Marvel Studios. That is a film division, but Marvel, the company, he is now Chief Creative Officer of Marvel, the company. This includes comic books, video games, anything creative that comes under the Marvel umbrella. Technically now Kevin Feige has some say in that. He has some influence on that. And a lot of people think that's why a lot of stuff in comic books over the past couple of years is popping up in the MCU. Things like God of Stories Loki, things like Avenger Prime Loki, characters like America Chavez popping up in some recent stuff and being in the MCU now. Now, back to Dave Filoni, I just want to say that I know a lot of people are a little bit confused about this because Dave got a promotion in 2021. This was a quiet promotion. This was not something that Disney announced, but a lot of fans noticed that his profile was updated in 2021. And at that time, he was promoted to Executive Creative Director. Now, that did give him more influence on all of these different projects. And it seems like he did come in and try to help or, you know, try to be a part of these things at that time. But the truth is things were already being greenlit. The direction was already being decided. You already had visions of either showrunners, storytellers, scriptwriters, or whatever, right? So essentially the best example of this is like Andor. Andor is in development already. Dave Filoni comes in as this, you know, executive creative director in 2021, probably gives some notes here and there, maybe puts the Rakan Empire Easter egg into there, you know, some stuff like that. But overall, he doesn't craft the vision of that thing at all. And he certainly didn't like tell Tony Gilroy from Jump Street, oh, hey, I would keep this in mind, this in mind, this in mind. He came in way late. Now, I know a lot of you guys like Andor. I famously despise it. I think we can all agree that there's a version of Andor that's just a little bit more Star Wars, that feels just a little bit more like George Lucas' Star Wars, and I think that show would have been more popular and would have been less divisive within the fan base. That's like that's fucking fair, guys. Like, that's a really fair thing to say. And I think a person like Dave Filoni in the position of CCO, Chief Creative Officer, now allows that to be a possibility. Okay, TLDR, Dave Filoni promoted after the Ahsoka show to a huge officer position within Lucasfilm, overseeing development of everything from this moment on. Now, the crazy part is, right, Ahsoka, as I said before, you know, it's not even a perfect show. Like, I'm a huge fan of it, and I give it like an 8 out of 10. A lot of people didn't like Ahsoka. Ahsoka did suffer, I think, lower viewership numbers than Disney was expecting. But I actually do think that's more of an issue with other shows like Kenobi, like The Book of Boba Fett, like even Andor. And you can see diminishing returns on almost all Disney Plus shows, including Loki, the biggest Disney Plus show ever. Loki season 1, the second season of it, really underperformed with audiences. That's not to say that Dave can't do better, and he should do better with Ahsoka season 2. But what I'm telling you is, from Disney's perspective, they didn't view Ahsoka as a complete failure, and they didn't lay the burden of lower viewership on Filoni solely. And I think there's a lot of other data, including the way fans interacted with Ahsoka on social media, which to me was the most positive I had seen in a long time. Fans getting super excited and hyped up for the first time in like years. Yeah, I think that data is something that is influencing Disney and maybe Kathleen Kennedy's decision here. Ahsoka was a success in some ways. And so now Filoni's the guy, right? He's the chief creative officer. So I think number one, what this means is that all of these next movies will be more cohesively tied together. We had heard that even for the new Rey movie, Filoni was in the writer's room. Now, I don't know if that's like as early as possible. Like, it seems now with his position at CCO, maybe he would have even been involved in the pitch process and in greenlighting that movie, and maybe he wasn't, right? The Rey movie might not be Filoni's idea, but we know he was involved very early on in that process. What I think will happen from here is Filoni directly being involved in all of these movie processes, and he's going to really try to tie this all together. And honestly, guys, if you just look at Ahsoka, it kind of makes sense. They're talking about ancient Jedi, Peridia, all these different things, Mortis gods, the big tease of Abeloth, which I still absolutely believe is the way that they're going with this. That all ties into a James Mangold film where you have the first Jedi, right? A biblical tale with James Mangold. Feels like it ties directly into Ahsoka. Rey could have something to do with Abeloth, with what is happening in the Ahsoka show as well, right? So you could see the connection there. And then obviously Filoni's movie is going to probably tie the most into Ahsoka. Now, on that note of Ahsoka, there's a big question about Ahsoka season 2 here. From what I understand it, Ahsoka season 2 was greenlit some time ago, and there's even been more buzz that sort of reaffirmed that when the writer's strike ended as they got back to work on the scripts. But I've also heard, and a lot of this comes from Jason Ward and his coverage of the Ahsoka show, he had implied that Kathy really wanted to just get to the movie and just put the Filoni movie out there, but Dave and other creatives wanted more seasons. They want more time. They want to develop the story further, and I think it's obvious that Ahsoka was set up for a season 2. So I think you're probably going to get season 2, and then you're going to get the Filoni movie. But I think what might be even more interesting to see is what happens after this series of films and after the next couple of years of television. And that's, to me, the most exciting part about this promotion, because it will allow Dave to potentially be the sole creative driving force or a very influential voice in deciding what comes next for Star Wars. At some point, they are going to have to figure out other movies and push this thing forward. I think you need another trilogy, and a really freaking good one, for the sake of the Star Wars fandom. So what does this mean immediately for Star Wars fans? When will we start seeing the fingerprints of Dave on more projects. And what will that even look like? Well, I think the movies, right? That's really when you're going to see it, because that's what is happening right now. That's what they want to develop. That's what Lucasfilm is really freaking concerned about. And it is possible we don't get a second season of Ahsoka simply because now Dave will have to spend a lot of energy working on those movies. So I think we just got a bunch of Filoni injected into the films. And again, I think that means more connectivity. They're going to tie together more characters will probably pop up that are similar, more themes, more backstories, more crazy connections to the Mortis gods or things from Legends. I also think it's possible that some of the creatives that have been working closely with Dave over the past couple of years may well pitch projects to him that he will greenlight. Maybe it'll be Rick, maybe it'll be Bryce. I'm not sure, but I actually think you might get some people that already play in Filoni's sandbox pitch something to him and him approve it and help to guide those shows forward. So maybe even more Filoni-verse stuff. I'm really interested in what's really going on behind the scenes. Maybe some more stuff will leak out, or maybe we'll have to wait till that celebration in Japan in 2025, because it really feels like Star Wars is doing a lot of cooking. Now, I completely acknowledge Star Wars is in a terrible spot. I mean, things are really bad. The fandom is completely fractured. The viewership's way down. People are clowning on the brand. I completely acknowledge that. I understand it completely. But I think doing this, putting Filoni more in charge, is a positive move. I know not everybody loves Filoni, but I think he will bring in an aspect to the content moving forward that will reinforce dope Star Wars things. And I do think that will lead to more cohesion between the projects, the ability for fans to connect with these projects better. I've got a lot of hope here, man. I think this might be the time when things really begin to turn around, but I'd love to know what you think about this. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.